Good afternoon, Joe Winberg, Bluebird Semaphore. I'm going to do another old book reading, and I'm going to continue in the reading from that old geography book where I've read from once, and I'm going to pick up where I think I left off. This old geography book was the one from originally from 1812, although I had said what I thought its date was, I still think it's 1812. And general title being American Universal Geography. And I had gone into the introduction, and I'm still in there. I'm on page 25, and this part that I'm in is entitled The Solar Eclipse. Now, that being said, I really would like to be able to look into this while I'm reading, but for now, I don't seem to be able to do that. Let's see if I do something like this. The system of heavenly bodies to which the earth belongs is composed of the sun, the planets, satellites, asteroids, and the comets. The sun, the most glorious of the heavenly luminaries, is the source of light and heat, motion to all the bodies which revolve around it. The number of planets at the time was believed to be 7. So he states that. Now remember, this is 1812. The names of these, which, according to their nearness to the sun, are Mercury, Venus, the Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Herschel, which I believe now would probably be Jupiter in our current system. Now, wait a second. Jupiter, Saturn, and then Herschel. The 2 first are called inferior planets, the 4 last superior. Now, let me take a brief moment to look up Herschel, because we want to make sure that doesn't go up in a cloud of ambiguity. So here we go. The magic box. You type in the word Herschel, Herschel. Herschel. Boom. Herschel. Some supply store. Okay. Yeah, it's the problem with the magic box. People pay to get their stuff put up front. And well, Herschel has evolved into being a European space agency So I'm going to do it a different way, folks. What I'm going to do, I know this is exciting stuff. What I'm going to do is put in solar system. Go to solar system, blah, blah, blah. Okay, everything. So there's everything. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus is next. So here's another one of the orders. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Pluto, which until recently was considered to be the farthest planet, is now classified as a dwarf planet. Additional dwarf planets have been discovered farther from the Sun than Pluto. Well, the point is that instead of, what did I say, Herschel, we would have in there Uranus. That's what we would have. Okay, you getting this? Good. I think that's the right thing to do if I see something that needs to be corrected because of the date of this writing. Well, I think I should do that correction. I mean, we do have the magic box, don't we? It's easy. I don't have to resort to my 1875 edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, now do I? No, I don't. It's all over here. Okay, so here we go now. The number of planets is 7, names of which included, we just said that, Mars. The number of satellites is 18. The Earth has 1, Jupiter 4, Saturn 7, Hercules 6. That Herschel. These roll round their prospective primaries and accompany them in their annual revolutions around the sun. The number of asteroids at present known is 4. Their orbits lie between those of Mars and Jupiter. Their names, according to their nearness to the sun, are, here we go, Ceres, Pallas, Juno, and Vesta. The number of comets belonging to our system is not yet accurately known. Astronomers have, at different periods, supposed the principal bodies which compose the solar system arranged in different orders. Such a supposed arrangement is called a system of the world. The most distinguished of these systems are the and the triangles. So there are three things, and they're spelled PT, Ptolemaic, Trigeminal, and Copernican. Now, what I want to do is I want to get back to how many asteroids they think are in our planetary system. I should say in our solar system. So the status of asteroids has significantly changed since 1812, because instead of 4, according to NASA, there's an estimated 1.1 to 1.9 million asteroids larger than a 1 kilometer in diameter. Asteroids that are larger than 1 kilometer in diameter within our solar system, with millions more smaller asteroids. So obviously, with much greater penetrating power, we have been able to determine that there are many asteroids out there, many. And so that's that. Now, of course, that's, somewhat meaningful to us in that some are fairly large bodies, and if they get too close to a planet, such as Earth, it's not going to be happy. There's going to be some conflict between those two heavenly bodies, and their forces are going to be competing. So we know that now. The Ptolemaic system is so-called from Claudius Ptolemy, a celebrated astronomer of Pelusium in Egypt. Not because he was the author of it, but because he adopted and endeavored to support it in his astronomical work called the Almagest, Almagest, which is the only important book of ancient astronomy. That has come into our possession. According to this hypothesis, the Earth is immovable is immovable, fixed in the center of the universe, and all the other bodies revolve around it from east to west in the space of 24 hours. At the space of 24 hours, at distances which increase in the order in which they are here named, and the fixed stars. The sun and planets, so the order, of course, is, we already said that, but Moon, Mercury, the Moon wasn't included. Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the fixed stars. The sun and planets were supposed to be firmly set in separate crystalline spheres, enclosed by a concave one containing the fixed states, which would, of course, for be all equally distant from the Earth. Also, the starry sphere would imagine to be the two crystalline spheres, the premium mobile communicating into all the interior spheres. And finally, the Empyrean heaven or heaven of heavens, to which a cubic form was attributed. Besides this, the above motion performed in the course of 24 hours, the sun and planets were supposed to reveal about the Earth in certain stated or periodical times agreed to their annual appearances. Okay, I'm going to cut it off there, but I'll just comment a little. So when you go back and you read older books and such, it's possible you'll get a better understanding of what they were thinking. For example, when they talked about, which they did, when they talked about the stars and the planets and the distances between them, they made it clear that in those days, in those times, the original thinking was that the Earth was the center of what they were looking at when they looked at there. Had they already called it the solar system by then? I don't know. But they were looking at it. And they said that, this is the way it is. The Earth's at the center. It doesn't move. Everything else moves around it. From east to west, I think, is the way they said it in the book. Which is when you're reading some contemporary written material, about the solar system, and they'll mention some of the ancient astronauts, not astronauts, the ancient astronomers. They'll point this out. They once thought it was stationary, and then along came Copernicus and this guy and that guy, and they found out that it wasn't. So by reading an old book, you get a little background. I would have to say that I wasn't aware of the original concepts, except that I knew that originally it was not the way we think about it now. That the sun is what's a stationary point, seems like a stationary point relative to everything else in this sun's solar system, and relative to the Milky Way, which we're just one little solar system in the Milky Way, which is, 100 million solar systems or 100 billion? It's a lot. So, in essence, when you know this, you should be able to sit back and say that, well, everything is in constant flux, constant motion. And we all get that from the Big Bang. Everything is flying away and this, that, and the other thing. And by the way, I recently came across a statement, and I think this has to do with what I'm talking about, a statement that there was some Arab scientist, philosopher, who was thinking about these things. And he came up with the idea that there was a God, and the stream of life, let's call it. I don't know what they called it. Okay, they had complete control. This God had complete control, and there is a name for this God. It had complete control over it, and it had the ability to stop this stream and then just insert whatever they wanted. So if he wanted a different play, if he wanted a different type of activity to go on at a certain time, maybe he wasn't pleased with what he or she or whatever had made, he could go back and open up the stream and put in another stream, a mini stream, let's call it, patch it in there, and then everything would be good again. It would be the way this God wanted. And I'm using God, I mean this entity. I recently read this, I forget where. When I come across it again, I hope to maybe just type a note in this world history post. So I'm going to end the reading now. And it wasn't much. That was only one page. But obviously there is some difficulties with doing this. The text is hard to read. Some of the words I'm not familiar with. So the pronunciation is fairly poor. But I want to try to keep doing this, if nothing else, to give who's ever looking at this a taste of an old book now. Are there older books? Certainly much older. You get your hands on an illuminated manuscript. You could go back to the 5th century, 4th century, 6th century. So, or you could go back to when Gutenberg created the first printing press, and get yourself one of those books that was coming off the press in the 1500s. those would be old books. But yet, you know, when we think about old, 1500, 1600, is not necessarily what we would say is really old. Really old is usually going back to the first couple of centuries of the present era. You know, 100 AD, 200 AD, 300 BC. Then we're starting to think seriously old. Or in China, you go back 200 BC, 300 BC, no, not 200, 2000 BC. And you start to get some writing, some seriously old characters, usually stamped into wood. That's old. But 1812 is nothing to sneeze at either. And I'm not going to sneeze anymore. I'm going to say bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this. It was tough. I know it's tough. But if you can, try staying with it, because eventually, you know, it may prove useful. Maybe give you a little different slant on life, you know, and why we're all caught up in this thing that we call living. You know, you can take it or leave it. I don't know what you want to call it, but we're all caught up in it, and we've all been given the explanations. And of course, we're supposed to, for the most part, take those explanations on as true, as the guided light of the wise people, the wise one. There's another book I read recently, and they keep referring to one of Roosevelt's either cabinet members, probably was a cabinet member, and a few other folks as the wise one, the wise one. Because they thought about themselves as being the wise men. They were irrefutable in what they thought. You know, nobody else could know anything. Only the wise one and his comrades. This came up in the Franklin Delano Roosevelt era. But I'm sure in all the eras, even to this day, the halls of Washington, D.C. are flooded with tons of people who think they're the wise one. All right, folks, have a good night. I'll talk to you next time. And I know I promised to put some piano up, and I haven't got around to it yet, but I will. Here we go. Bye.